I want to talk about what's been happening over the past few years as I've started moving into more of my truth, being really the core essence of who I am. And I want to talk about what that journey has been like for me, because I feel like so many of you are going to resonate with this on a fucking soul level. I mean, I don't know anybody that has at one point in their journey not had to go through that phase of, am I good enough being as I am? In this relationship, in this friendship, in this job, in building a business, in doing my soul's work, in my craft, music, art, doesn't matter. Am I good enough just as I am? Or do I have to be what the entire world wants me to be just so I could feel enough? And I've had to go through this journey so many times in so many different seasons of my life, in so many different relationships, in so many different jobs. I mean, there just has not been a moment in my life where I have not been constantly faced with the idea of, or I almost want to say like the crossroads of, what choice am I going to make in this situation, in this relationship, in this job? What choice am I going to make? Am I going to choose to conform to what I'm being told and expected of me? Or am I going to choose myself? Am I going to choose the truth of who I am and what I believe in and my perspective and my views and with all the certainty of who I am I going to show up that way, or am I going to show up how I'm expected to? And I've had a recent situation come up where I had someone in my life send me a message saying that my vulnerability makes them uncomfortable. My vulnerability of talking about the situation with my family, in my relationships, with friendships, just all of that, all of being so raw about the shit I've gone through makes them uncomfortable. And that they don't understand how it's so easy for me to just go out there and say it how it is. That this is exactly what I went through, and this was the lesson, and this is what I had to overcome. And I talk a lot about my emotions and, the amount of times that I talk about my healing journey and how, yes, there were moments where I was crying on the floor. How there were moments in my relationships where I did not feel like I was good enough. So I became codependent, and I stayed in a relationship that I should not have stayed in much longer. I talk about the relationship with my mom. I talk about it all. And this person sends me this message, a friend from the past, saying, I feel like you share too much. Can you dial it down? Because don't you think it's too much? Don't you think that you're putting too much out there? And I had to sit with that for a few days. And I'm not going to lie, I was pretty triggered. I will be honest with you guys, because I am a human being. And despite the amount of work that you do, despite reaching levels of enlightenment and having all the emotional intelligence in the world and having all the modalities and the tools, and despite being a coach and being a leader and a healer, I'm still human above all. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt in that moment of listening and reading this message, am I being too much? Am I being too much? Should I dial myself down a little bit? Should I just do what's politically correct in terms of what I talk about? And I started to almost like take on a little bit of that insecurity from this other person. And I'm not blaming these people, by the way, because I understand everybody is on their journey, and wherever they're at, that's what they're going to project and that's what they're going to express. So they're actually being in their truth by saying what they're saying because it's where they're at, it's what they know. But me, on this end, I took it to heart and I was like, wait a minute, is this too vulnerable? Is this too raw? Is my presence and the words that are coming out of my mouth making other people uncomfortable? And I really had to sit with that, and I had to go in and I had to feel it. And for those of you that know, I'm a spiritual empowerment coach, but I'm also a quantum healer. A lot of the work that I do is helping people get into their bodies and feeling their emotions, because your emotions are the gateway. They're the gateway and to the insights that you need to help you move through shit like this. So I did that. I sat with myself and I allowed myself to feel it. And I actually felt it in my stomach. And I cried and I just went into the feeling of being too much. And all of a sudden, I started to just get these flashbacks of all the different situations in my life growing up as a kid where I was told that I was fucking too much. I'm not even kidding you guys. I legitimately, in high school, was voted in grade 12 the person to never stop talking. And they took a picture of me with a phone. And at the time I thought it was hilarious, right? Because it was just whatever. And then there was a moment where I didn't realize that it actually affected me, because I had created the story tied to that experience of, shit, am I saying too much? Do I say too much? Do I speak too much? And this whole idea of like making people comfortable by being and conforming to what they want you to be, not only does that take away your own fucking power, but it actually robs them of the opportunity to evolve. And it robs them of the opportunity to be in their truth and to say, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to show you by example, by being the testimony, that it's okay. It's okay to be who you are. And so I'm sitting with this and I'm going through all these experiences and I'm realizing like, no, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to absorb this fear that's being projected into my space. And I'm not blaming this person, but I understand where they are, but I'm not going to absorb this fear. And in that moment, obviously I allowed myself to alchemize the emotions that were coming through. And in that moment, I realized, and I heard Spirit say to me, I heard Source speaking through to me and saying, be authentic and show the world that it's okay to do the same. Be authentic and show the world that it is okay to do the same. Because we live in a fear-based environment, system that wants us to conform and to be and speak and act and behave and do all the things that will make us feel accepted. But guess what? Self-acceptance is an inside job. Ain't nobody outside of you gonna give you the validation that you need. And all of these situations that you are going through where you are falling into relationships where you don't feel accepted, you're falling into situations in your career, in your business, in the office, in your friendships, in any dynamic where you don't feel accepted, is just an opportunity presenting itself so that you can come back to learning how to accept and validate yourself. They're all just opportunities. Every single time. It is never about the other person. It is never about the situation outside of you. All of those experiences are there to show you how to come home to your own acceptance. Because a woman who is in her full power, who does not need the validation of anybody or anything outside of her, is the fucking most powerful and magnetic force on the planet. And the system knows that. This fear-based collective, this fear-based environment that we are living in is teaching us to conform and to not be too much and to not speak too much and to not behave too much. Because if we do, we won't fit in. We won't be accepted into social environments. And they know that women biologically are more social beings than men are. Just going back to the root of humanity. Women would stay in the tribes while the men went off to hunt, and they would be the keepers of the community. They would be nurturing, and they would spend time with other families and children and community. And so for us, it's really important that we feel accepted in the community. But how far are we willing to go at self-abandoning just so we could fit into an environment that does not even serve us when we show up that way? How far are we willing to go at sacrificing the truth of who we are just so we can fucking fit in a box that does not even want us to grow? A box that is keeping us trapped, keeping us small. Why? Why would they want you to feel small? And here's the thing. I don't even blame certain people, because when I talk about the system, I'm talking about a collective mentality or agreement of belief that has been conditioned for years and years and years to the point where we all fell into the trap. I fell into it growing up. I fucking came from a Middle Eastern culture. If that ain't like the programming of the programming, I don't know what is, because I can tell you right now, the value system in Middle Eastern culture, there's a lot of beauty to it. Don't get me wrong. I love the value system of family and all these things, but there is an element of being accepted in your community. And that the moment that you go against the grain, that you're not going to be accepted. And so I had to learn the hard way of really coming back to the truth of who I am. There are things that I don't agree with. There are things that I don't align with. There are things I want to say. There's the part of me that the inner child that wants to come out and feel free to express herself, feel free to speak, feel free to talk about my journey, to talk about everything that I have ever gone through, because I know that the purpose of all of this is to help other people grow too, to help other people expand through being the testimony and the example that it's okay to do the same. And part of that is talking about my journey of where I was to where I am. And that's how I impact the world. That's the way of contribution that aligns with my soul, is almost going through the experience and then using my voice to be the messenger coming out on the other side. But everyone is, and here's the thing, by the way, you're capable of this too. You are just as capable as me when it comes to going out there and being fully and unapologetically in your truth. You have that essence within you. You always have. You have never needed anybody to validate you. It ain't gonna be the guy to validate you. It ain't gonna be the boss, the promotion, the money, the social media status. None of those fucking things actually matter, because when you realize the core essence of who you are is you came into this world inherently worthy of love, joy, abundance, and all of the things that you truly desire, to be and to experience. That is what the soul came here to do. But then everything else outside of us conditioned us to play small, to believe that we don't have this kind of power. It's not possible. It's not possible to experience a life so grand. How could you possibly believe that you are worthy of money and love and relationships? I know you want them, but it's not possible that you would believe that you are worthy. That's what they want you to believe. Because someone who is operating from a place of fear, someone who's operating from a space of not accepting the truth of who they are, not fully saying, you know what, Hevi, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me because I love myself to the core, knowing that I am not alone. I am the extension of God, of source, whatever you want to call it. And I know my power. I know my truth. I know my gifts. I know my purpose. And if that triggers anyone outside of me, that trigger is not mine. Doesn't belong to me. And I will show up with love, and I will show up with compassion for the people outside of me, because my intentions are all rooted in love. However, I will not allow the fear-based mindset of conforming and wanting to be and fit into a fear-based environment. I will not allow that to dictate the way I show up in my life. This is the level of self-love that I believe you are capable of. Because there was a time where if I had seen that message that this friend sent to me a few years back, saying that I was saying too much and that it makes them uncomfortable, I probably would have agreed and said, maybe I am. You know what? Maybe I'm going to change who I am. Maybe I'll speak a little bit less. Maybe I'll hide a little bit more. But this version of me that has done the work to get here, she knows that that would not serve her. She knows that that would not serve her, nor would it serve the woman on the other side who was living in that state of fear, nor would it serve the community by playing small, by dialing herself down, by being more silent, by quieting herself, dimming her light. This version of me does not give a fuck what anyone has to say. And I have had people say shit. Because you know what? Your light is going to intimidate some people. And I get it. I was there. It's scary. I was scared at some point. I was so scared that I would be outcasted by my community, by my friends, in my relationships. I was so afraid to be alone and left out that I was willing to sacrifice myself and sacrifice what I wanted to say and what I believed in and my perspective and how I wanted to live my life. I was so scared that I was willing to give up the truth of who I was just so I could be wanted. But I'm going to give you something here. You cannot fill the void from anything outside of you. You can't. I've tried. Years. Doesn't work. You have to learn to love yourself. You have to learn to accept yourself. You have to learn to be okay with not being liked. And that's the hard one. That's the one that most people struggle with. And that's the thing that robs most people from the love, joy, abundance, and growth that their heart truly desires. What if they don't accept me? I'm going to explain something to you. The person that cannot accept you has not reached a point where they can accept themselves. So why would you want to be validated by somebody who doesn't even want to accept themselves at that point? And that's okay that that's their journey. I have compassion and I have love for those people. But it should not rob you from being the truth of who you are. Where someone else is in their journey should not rob you from being in your truth. From saying what you want to say, living life how you want to live your life. You don't want to have children? Great. Who the fuck cares what anyone else thinks? You don't want to be in a relationship? You'd rather just travel the world? You reach a certain point, where it doesn't even appeal to you? Great. Who cares? You want to make certain type of music and you're like 40 and you're ready to start a band? I don't give a fuck. I'm taking it to different degrees, but you get the gist here. You get it. I literally go to bed by 8:30 or 9 p.m. And a lot of people in my life are like, okay, what are you, 50? And I'm like, no, I just really like my mornings. And there are certain social events that I go to, work related or non-work related, where I will leave early. And they'll look at me and they'll go, well, A, you don't drink. Why don't you drink? You're no fun. You're going to bed by 9:30. You're so lame. Great. I feel great in the morning when I don't wake up with a hangover. I feel extraordinary when I get to go to the gym at 6 or 7 a.m. That's how I want to lead my life. And I will not conform to what you do just because that's fine. If that's what works for you, no judgment here. But this whole idea of shaming other people who don't like to do the same things that you want to do is really just low frequency behavior. And again, I understand where everyone is at, but can we learn to love and respect where everyone is at without criticizing the other person? Can we learn to actually operate from a state of compassion and knowing that everybody is exactly where they need to be on their journey? And best of all, can we learn not to give a fuck and just live life the way that we feel aligned to? What our soul, what our heart wants to do, whatever that may be for you. Because you came into this world free, but everything else taught you that you are not. So let's break free from the slavery mentality that we have been conditioned into in this system that's trying to keep us in a fear-based mindset and to keep us small and to keep us limited. Can we break free from that by first learning to fully accept ourselves and not give a shit what anybody outside of us has to say about that? Can we? That's a place to start. Because you're already enough. You've never needed anything outside of you. And I will tell you that 1,000 times if I have to. That's how certain I am of this. You've never needed anything to be who you are. You've never needed permission. And if anybody has anything to say, release it, let it go. Come back to the truth of your essence, of the essence of who you are. And own it. Own it fully, because that is the greatest gift that you will give to yourself, to your family, to your community, to your business, anyone that crosses your path. Show them that it's okay to be authentic. And if they feel uncomfortable, and if they feel like it's too much, or that you're being too much, show them that it's okay for them to also be too much. Too much. Show them that it is okay to be who they are without judgment. Thank you guys so much for listening to my rant today. I really wanted to just pour my heart out because I realized I'm not alone. I realized there's so many people in this journey. And, you know, I have so many clients who, it's funny because all of my clients come with these different experiences, and yet all of them, it comes fundamentally down to the same thing. Every single woman comes into my life, into my work, to tell me that inherently they just want to come back to feeling safe in being who they are, to feel accepted and to feel worthy. That's what it comes down to. If you guys want to take this journey to the next level, I do have a free Facebook group called the Soul Expansion. This is about coming home to your highest self, embodying that self-love, that confidence, the truth of who you are, and being comfortable and confident in expressing it authentically to the world so that you can go out there and fully create the life you truly want, to start magnetizing the life that you want. We have monthly calls. I bring so many different tools and insights and tons of different videos and practical step-by-step methods that you can start to use to come back to the truth of who you are, to start embodying that higher self within you that I know exists. So if this resonates, there's the link below in the description. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week.